Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the College of Creation. My name is Dan.
And my name is Michael.
And we are Dungeons & Dragons DMs who love to homebrew items, spells, creatures, and features for D&D. And this is a show where we make brand new homebrew every single week based on prompts that we get from our community. And our community this week told us that we needed to make an item, a magic item that changes the user's personality when it is used.
Mm-hmm.
There's a tricky thing when trying to create something that mechanically changes somebody's personality in a meaningful way, because we all know that the personalities are being shaped in the moment at the table by the person playing. It's hard to put that into mechanical terms sometimes.
We did talk a little bit last week about how similar it was to last week's prompt. At the very least, could have some potential for quite a bit of overlap. Mm-hmm. And I found this week that definitely was the case. Even though kind of the more specific prompt came first last week with the mirror abilities, I found myself pulled in similar directions that I was last week with this one. A lot of the creative ideas that I had came from similar places. So I'm interested to see how your items turned out this week, because mine, I had to put some strictures in place to make sure that I stayed out of that lane that I was in last week.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a tricky one, because I think it really does get into like slightly into the weeds of like meta game stuff, which you know we've talked about a little bit before, and with regard to, in my opinion, metagaming in many ways is not a bad thing. And I think it is often treated as some sort of like a word that is brought up to indicate something wrong going on at the table. And I really don't think that is always the case. I think there are lots of ways in which metagaming is the natural state of the game. And built into the game, especially with regard to like combat abilities. But really if you think about anything that you mechanically do that relies on the mechanics of the game to propel the story forward, your character has a meta knowledge of what that effect or that action can do.
Sure.
And you are bringing that in to your play in that moment. So in many ways, I think it's just part of the natural state of the game. And so that's fine. And in many ways, I think it's something that isn't an issue. But I think in this particular case, it's a strange one because you are relying on the player that you give this item to really, truly, acknowledge and sink into the idea that the personality of their character is changing.
I think one of the things that I really went back to often when I was putting together my pitch for this week was using these items as a jumping off point for characters that want a severe shift in their characters. If they've, played through enough arcs as this character and they're either getting tired of it or they're ready for their character to evolve, these things can be used as a quick narrative insert for the players that care about that kind of linear action. We talked a little bit last week about allowing either respecs of stats or just character overhauls. You talked about your ranger that turned into a druid at your table. Sometimes it's okay to just let players change everything about their character, and that's totally fine. But there are certain tables that kind of respect the story arc and the narrative arc enough that interrupts the experience for them. So items like this can be a backdoor to a hard reset, or at least a sudden shift in personality to make things a bit more interesting for players, give them a little bit of variation without having to make an entirely new character or jump into a new game.
Yeah.
This can be kind of like a soft launch for a new direction for a character without having to above table say, all right, I'm bored. Like what can we do to just like get me out of this situation? Enter these items. That's
a really interesting way to approach it. I will admit I didn't I did not approach it in terms of like trying to create an avenue by which a character or player can enact or sort of like spur on some sort of big major sea change in their own personality. Like, I definitely was thinking in a different direction. I will say I followed an initial instinct to go very, very silly on this.
Okay.
Because my very, very first thought was something that I've actually already done in a game, and that like I think does have more of a mechanical thing in this. But I think that, to your point of creating an opportunity for a personality change from a standpoint of something that is maybe desired by the player or by the story to push something forward. That's really interesting and very cool. And I love doing that. I think about that so much less, though, in mechanical ways. And so I'm excited to see what you came up with for that, because I usually just rely on the storytelling ability of my friends to like make that happen and to like inspire that change and trust everybody at the table to like work together to move down that path and get the characters where we want to see them get to. So yeah, I'm very interested to see what you have on that front.
Yeah, it sounds like we went in relatively different directions here. So I am excited to get into it. Why don't we start with your pitch today?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you will open up your document here. Like I said, it's not all the way finished yet. And I'll go through the first finished one first because it's very silly and goofy, and I'll have a good time explaining it. A consumable wondrous item, I know you love that.
I do.
Is very rare. These are called the Cookies of Convergent Fortune. These innocuous dessert items hold a strange power. When two or more creatures within 10 feet of each other consume these cookies at the same time, they each feel a rumbling in the earth and hear a loud crack of thunder. After 1d4 hours, all affected creatures become unconscious and awake after 6 seconds, having randomly swapped bodies. The creatures use their original intelligence, wisdom, and charisma, but use their new bodies' strength, dexterity, and constitution, and can only use the abilities of their new forms. Like skills, features, traits, all of that stuff. This transformation can only be ended if each affected creature finds and consumes another cookie of conversion fortune at the same time as and while within 10 feet of each other affected creature, or by use of the wish spell. This is the Freaky Friday cookies.
Okay, so maybe we didn't go in quite as opposite directions.
Oh, did we?
I thought.
I'm excited.
I don't think
I'm
we
very
did.
excited.
I don't think we did. Even looking at your second one, it's not right on the nose, but I think we have ventured into the same territory today. But I do like these very much. I do like these a lot. I love the kookiness of it.
Yep.
I love the randomness of it. I think it's very, very cool, and I would love to toss this into a party of willing players that are ready to snap into different creatures' personalities, especially if you have if your players are okay with it. I would love to have 2 or 3 NPCs in the mix too, and
yeah, sure, players
just end up with these crazy character sheets. This is great. I love that they're fortune cookies. I think that's really funny.
Yep, I'm a big fan of that goofiness. This is definitely the thing that I would bring to a fun, long D&D weekend sort of situation. Just bring some character sheets. Everybody fills out. Okay, get excited to make your character. Great, you have your character. You like them? Great, pass your sheets. You've all swapped bodies.
Yep.
So that's very fun. My second thing is much more. It's a serious thing. It's not so goofy. And this is directly inspired by the overarching plot narrative of a campaign of mine that wrapped a while back. that I have taken the general conceit of the MacGuffin and the plot that was going on during that campaign, and ported it into items that can be placed into, I think, any game that you're running. I won't say any setting because it does require that there be like legendary dragons in your setting, but if that is the case, then you're good. So these are called dragon masks. These are wondrous items. They are legendary, and they each require attunement. Each dragon mask is imbued with an aspect of an ancient chromatic or metallic dragon. In order to attune to a mask, a creature must share one of the listed dragon's alignment pillars on either the morality or the order axis. And while attuned to a mask, a creature gains the listed benefits and takes on the full alignment of the mask and must act in accordance with the listed goals and ideals for that mask. Once attuned, the creature cannot unattune from the item by any means other than a wish spell or the creature's death. So I have only created 3 so far, just going alphabetically down the line. But the idea for this is that in the game that I had, there were these ancient dragons that dealt some great evil to the world in days long past. Gods were at war and everything was very chaotic, etc. The dragons chose sides in this combat, and in the ensuing peacetime that ended once the gods finally sort of like settled in, these evil dragons were locked away in their own domains and were not allowed to join forces anymore. And the only way they could do this was by infusing their essence into some magical items that then some evil NPCs found and became the aspects of these dragons, and then went on their own plot to combine their forces and thereby bring the dragons back together. Now, in that particular case, I kept a couple things and I got rid of a couple things. One of the things that I got rid of was like, if all of these masks are together, they're way more powerful and it's way too complicated. But the thing that I kept that I really like is that in order for those items to work and for those NPCs to take on the aspects of these dragons, they had to already have an ideal in line with the dragon that sought to like latch on to them, right? They already had to have something in common. There had to be some thread of similarity that the dragons could pull on in order to get them to attune and become their sort of avatars on the earth. So I kept that idea that like you need to have something in common. You need to be somewhere along the similar axis as the dragon in order to attune. Otherwise, it won't work at all. So in this case, we've got the Black Mask. The alignment of the Black Mask is chaotic evil. And the goals and ideals of that dragon is that I seek to control the forces of life and death and will collect any necromantic knowledge and magical items that I find. Each of these dragons relies on a sort of specific type of collection or a specific type of interest, because we all know dragons hoard things. That is the thing that dragons are known to do. But the treasures that each dragon finds worth valuing are very different. In the case of the Black Dragon, simple like treasure will not do, but specifically like necromantic knowledge is the treasure that a Black Dragon seeks. While attuned to this mask, your intelligence score increases by 2 to a maximum of 22, and you gain resistance to necrotic damage. You also learn the Animate Dead spell and can cast it without expending a spell slot or material components a number of times equal to half your proficiency bonus per long rest. The Blue Mask has an alignment of lawful evil, and the goals and ideals are I seek to win glory and greatness by crushing my enemies and will answer any challenge, explicit or perceived. Blue dragons are very prideful and seek glory. While attuned to this mask, your constitution score increases by 2 to a maximum of 22, and you gain resistance to cold damage. You also learn the Enthrall spell and can cast it without expending a spell slot or material components a number of times equal to half your proficiency bonus per long rest. I should have made that lightning damage. I don't know why I wrote cold damage there. That should be lightning damage. Anyway, the brass mask is chaotic good. And I seek to spread knowledge and information and will do all I can to collect information and ensure dangerous secrets are revealed before they can be a threat. While attuned to this mask, your intelligence score increases by 2 to a maximum of 22, and you gain resistance to fire damage. You also learn the Sending spell and can cast it without expending a spell slot or material components a number of times equal to half your proficiency bonus per long rest.
I think these are really cool. I like that they're kind of a nudge in a new direction, and that can kind of snowball as a game goes.
Right.
It's not just a sharp, like, you're evil now and you were good. Like, you have to have some type of inkling towards that path to be selected in the first place. That's very cool. I really like that they're not overly complex. Like, even as a legendary item, I think sometimes players are dissuaded from taking legendary items because it's like 6 paragraphs of text to understand what your item is doing and what it can do. And these are just simple enough while also providing enough of a narrative cushion so that you can develop your own way of filling these desires and goals.
Yeah.
And that's very nice. I think it's a good player-friendly set of items. Nice.
Because I do think adding a little bit of power would be useful for these particular items, but I didn't want to overcomplicate them. But I think, if anything, I might just add a little line that says, like, while you are within X number of feet, probably like 30 feet or maybe 60 feet, of another creature attuned to a dragon mask. And maybe I have to, keep it in line with, like, if yours is metallic, the other has to be metallic. Mm-hmm. You share resistances.
Yeah.
You each gain resistance to the damage type associated with your own mask and the other's masks, because that was a core idea of the original story and plot, was that they actually shared immunities in that particular game, so it got really hairy when they were all together. It became really tough to find something that could dig into their defenses effectively. But I think that's the only thing I would add to, like, give it a little more oomph and make it slightly more complicated and build in a little bit of a desire to look for more and collect more of these.
Sure.
To face down very specific things, So there you go. I had a good time making them, though.
Lovely. It's a great item that can grow with a player, and that's nice.
How about you? What did you come up with this time around?
I was trying to think, what would I, as a player, want to experience if I wanted to change something drastic about my character's personality. I wouldn't want it to be abrupt. I would want to have some type of inciting incident or, like, acquired knowledge that would prod me in a new direction. So I made 2 items today, but they're both under a new umbrella. So if you want to open your document,
okay.
I made a new framework-ish, not a new item type per se, but just kind of a new classification that any current item could fall under if you want them to. I call these relics. Relics are magical items that have a strong connection to a place, creature, ideal, or memory of great power. A portion of the item's power is fueled by this connection, even if centuries have passed since its conception. These items are special in the sense that attunement to them requires additional strictures, encouraging the bearer to adopt that connection. While some may misinterpret this additional attunement cost as a curse of sorts, these strictures are only meant to heighten the narrative meaning of the item and the bearer's journey in discovering their new ties to history. A few examples of existing items that could be additionally classified as relics may be a Rod of the Pact Keeper, crafted from the bones of a warlock's patron, a ring of animal influence made in a forge that doubled as a sanctuary for sick and recovering beasts, or a cloak of protection woven by a mother with love for her child. Relics can appear mundane and unassuming, or fancy and expensive, but no matter the exterior, the importance is held within the circumstance of its creation and the additional attunement strictures. So I have 2 items here that are, they're both wondrous items, but they're both also classified as relics.
I like it.
So the first one, it's 2 items in one, actually. This is very similar to the one that you made. This is called the Masks of Twin Fate. This is a very rare set of wondrous items. This pair of carved wooden masks are stained deep mahogany and are identical to each other. They carry within them remnants of celestial magic granted by an ancient deity of connection and unification. The few texts from that time that remain tell us that this deity was once 2 mortals who made their journey from life to death hand in hand. And upon ascension, the 2 mortals' bodies were combined, and attunement to these masks links a wearer to them indelibly.
Cool.
So the stricture for attunement. 2 creatures must attune to this item in tandem, and an attunement slot is occupied for both of them. If one creature chooses to break their attunement to the masks, it is broken for both creatures. When you and another creature attune to these masks, they form to both of your faces and become invisible. A detect magic spell or successful DC 20 Arcana check will reveal that you're wearing a mask.
Okay.
While attuned, both creatures have an intelligence, wisdom, and charisma score equal to the higher number between the 2.
Ooh.
So you now can share, you can boost each other up while you're both wearing these masks.
Nice. Wow.
As long as both attuned creatures are willing, one of them can use an action to engage the masks. The 2 creatures then switch bodies, only maintaining their personality, demeanor, and memories.
Nice.
This includes known languages, but all other mechanical character features are dictated by the physical body a character is occupying.
Nice.
The body swap lasts for 24 hours, or until one of the creatures uses an action to switch back, at which point this feature can't be used again for an additional 24 hours. So it is not random like yours. It's not as chaotic.
No, not nearly.
It is much more intentional. It can be very tactical, I think. If you have if you have your sorcerer and your barbarian wearing these masks, you can really mess up a GM's plan, I think, in very creative ways using these.
I'm thinking about this in connection to the partner subclasses we made with 7th Mastery.
Ooh,
I think there are some very cool things that you could do some crossover with.
Yeah.
For all of ours probably in that space.
But yeah, really, what I wanted to focus on with these 2 items, and really just like the structure in general, is the emphasis on where the item came from and where the power of the item comes from.
Yeah.
And like using that connection, using that to steer where the character goes from there. So like you're doing whatever you're doing, and then you come in contact with this item, and that kind of steers you into a new path that way. A nice gradual shift into a new lane.
Yeah, I like that.
My second one, I call these the Everlit Matches. This is an uncommon, wondrous item. It requires attunement, and it is also classified, of course, as a relic. Nice. This box of matches is said to have belonged to a famous bandit that died along the northern foothills a few decades back. As the story depicts, the bandit wouldn't have been caught dead without a lit pipe in his hand. That's, of course, until he was, as the pipe and the matchbook must have been taken off of his body. When he was discovered a few days after his demise, they were nowhere to be found. Folklore tells us that in death he walks the plains seeking a reunion with his pipe and matches. You can't attune to this item unless you are completely alone. Once attuned to this item, you can't shake the feeling that you're being watched. Whenever you are alone, your sweat runs cold.
Ooh.
Only the creature attuned to this matchbox can light the matches and blow them out. The matches are unaffected by wind, and while they can't be lit underwater, do not snuff out if submerged in water while already lit. The box holds 10 matches, and once empty, completely refills after 1d10 days.
Nice.
Also well attuned, if the matchbox is removed from your person and remains away for more than 10 minutes, it automatically reappears either in your hand or your pocket. Your choice.
That's just fun.
Yeah, a cool little trinket, right?
Yeah.
The bandit's going to come for you eventually, though. So it's a built-in story beat for your GM.
Right.
And you're always looking over your shoulder. You slowly over time become a very anxious character.
There's something freaky going on there for sure.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like this a lot.
Thanks.
I just like the the structure of magic item as relic. I wish I had this like a couple of years ago when I was planning a game of mine. There are some items that I gave out that don't have a ton of mechanical or story significance that I think I would have given a lot more thought to in this framework. That would have been very cool for that particular game. This is part of the same sort of thing, but I've always thought that, like, in some cases, I do feel like finding a way to make attunement a task is good.
Yeah.
And like I've never really done it in my games, but like part of me is very frequently thinking like, I feel like I should. I feel like I should make it something that like requires effort in some way. Requires something unique to happen or a check or something like that. But it's something I've considered. But I like that these have very clear guidelines for how, like, what needs to happen for that to
each one has to have some sort of potential to be a narrative built in to your game.
Yeah.
And the attunement has to somewhat tie into that narrative build in. So that can I tried to think of these like what would be like an inciting moment for this personality shift. And that's the additional stricture for attunement. Like whatever that would be is the thing that's required for your character to do to attune to it. So you have to do it. You have to take that step in that new alternate direction.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think it's also very cool that you added a few notable things of like, here's some items that exist maybe that like you could recontextualize as relics. Yeah, I think that's very cool. And I will definitely be using the idea of more complex attunement for sure.
Man, last week and this week, items, I forget how quickly items go. These are like just nice streamlined episodes whenever we make items.
We run through them real quick. I think we both just have really clear ideas around some of these. That are just fun. I will say, with regard to your masks, your masks are much more clearly well designed as a body swap mechanic than mine. Mine is so deeply chaotic, and yours like has, I think, much better wording to clarify what stays and what goes for it. So I would much rather see that happen in an actual like long form game. I feel like mine is good for like one shot or some like goofy interstitial nonsense.
It's a chaos prod for sure.
Yeah, it's just like a one-off.
There's a time and a place for both. I think there are games where, especially after long campaign arcs, if you have a regular table, I've played with the same group regularly for almost 5-6 years now, and it's one of those things where it's like when you get so into this like very serious like deep campaign arc and you go through that final push of that really difficult dungeon and you come out and you're like, I just need a breath for a second. And that's the type of item that you pull out and say, okay, we're rolling up random characters. We have this crazy item now. Let's just go and tell a story that has no stakes. And that's a great way to start a story with no stakes and kind of build progressive stakes along the way. So it is just as much an important item as the masks, for sure.
Yeah, everything has its place, and everything you can find ways to make it, and all we're making is options, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
options are good.
So yeah, grand time. Michael, should we roll for next week's prompt?
I think so.
We have our big list of homebrew prompts that we get from our listeners. If you out there listening have a prompt for something that we could make on this show, you can get in touch with us and send us your ideas, and we would be happy to add them to our growing list here. You can email us at collegeofcreationpod@gmail.com, or you can come on over to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/collegeofcreationpod as well. And once you're over there, you can join at the base, like a $0 free tier. You can get access to all of the PDF versions of the things that we make on this show, and you can get in touch with us over there, and we'd love to see you. So, Michael, what are we rolling for today?
We are next week going to make whatever is in row number 14.
14. Cooper T on TikTok says, make more Pokemon, please.
Oh, hey. All right.
More Pokemon.
We can do that. Easy enough. I love making Pokemon. I loved it so much the last time, and I've been thinking about it almost ever since.
Yeah.
So thank you for that prompt.
Definitely have some thoughts based on the last Pokemon thing that we made that I'm interested in perhaps bringing into this creation this time around. But we'll see.
Rotating
movesets. See what I come up with.
And
I think rotating movesets is a really cool thing. Passive abilities that you brought in is really cool, and is something I might like to do some more of. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Your idea of mythic actions as evolution is also really fun. It's not a perfect analog for what evolution is, but it is a very cool way, specifically for Eevee, a very cool way to have like all of those evolutions without trying to find all 9 of them.
Yeah.
I think maybe I'll try and go more towards where you were last time in the way of making companions. I think decidedly I made monsters, like for encounter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm interested in making some more familiar type creatures. So we'll see. We'll see what I come up with this week. But yes, great prompt. Thank you.
Yeah. Back to Pokemon for us for now. We'll see what shows up in my brain, because I honestly am not sure what direction I want to go this time. Just some of the ideas that I know. If I can make them,
Pokemon.
Build them in, that's what I want to do. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ideas within the Pokemon universe that we could dig into. So we'll see.
Certainly.
Well, Michael, thanks for your creations today. Before we go, do you have anything to say to the people before we say goodbye?
Dan, I always have something to say to the people before we say goodbye. There are many types of players. Dan and I know this as game masters. You all know this, game masters out there in the world who are listening to this. For a long time, especially when I was an early dungeon master, I love narrative play. I think combat is fun, but I'm much more invested in what my characters do, how my characters are feeling, etc. And so I would design my games with that in mind, and I had so many players just kind of like check out in the middle of sessions. I would wonder why they weren't engaging as much as other players. The power gamers, the min-maxers of the world that really take very little pleasure from storytelling. And what I've come to find out is you just have to talk to your players and see what they want out of the game. Crazy. Just like having conversations with your players, how important it is. So I suppose the baseline thing that I'd like to say to the people before we say goodbye is, before you start a game, before session 0, talk to your players and see what they want. Like, session 0 is, I feel like, almost too late. Because at that point, you're building the game, you're building the world, you're building the characters. Find out what your players enjoy in your games. And go into your session 0 with those things in mind. And try and meld them together. Sometimes it doesn't work if you have, 2 extremes at a table. but oftentimes you can fit everything that your players want into a game. You can fit it all under one roof. So talk to your players. It's beneficial.
Sure enough. Thank you once again. Good stuff today.
Likewise.
Can't wait to see what you come up with next time. Until then, y'all take care of yourselves, and we will talk to you very soon. Goodbye.
Goodbye.